Sometimes, they mislead us, right? They mislead that stereotypical salesperson. Why do they mislead them?
Because they don't want him being pushy.
Yeah, they want to protect themselves from this person, so it may mislead. How many times do we do that, right? A person calls you up on the phone, and they're asking a bunch of stuff, and you're like, nah, I'm really not interested. And then we say what after that? Not really interested. Say you didn't hang up. What do you say next? Why don't you send me something, right? I was waiting, yes. Why don't you send me something? Who's done that before with one of those calls, right? And it could be something valid like your college alumni association looking for donations. Who gets like 4 of those a week? Because actually I got 4 kids, actually 5 different college educations that I paid for. So I have 5 colleges calling my house on a regular basis. So it's brutal. And I see Villanova University, don't answer the phone, right? Because they always get me every time. And so we mislead them. So if they got on the phone and say, geez, I'm really kind of busy now. Is that a mislead? I'm just hanging out watching TV, right? Or, we're about to eat. I just finished eating. So sometimes we do that kind of thing. They don't treat you with respect. Even that woman, I'm walking up, I'm a harmless guy, right? College educated, I don't have a gun in my briefcase, just a bunch of brochures, right? And she didn't treat me with respect. And what does that do to me? How do you feel on the 15th door you knocked when you got rejected? How do you feel? How many people make phone calls sometimes, reaching out to prospective clients, and you get rejected 14 times in a row? How do you start to feel about you?
Shitty.
And what does that do? And that's a technical term. And so what does that do to our self-esteem over time? Day in and day out, week in, week out. A big part of what we teach at Sandler is working on our head and not allowing those people to pierce our armor. Who's controlling the process in that scenario? Look at your own sales cycles right now. Who feels in control, you or the prospect? The prospect, right? You ever feel like, even later in the cycle, they've asked you, hey, send me a proposal. This sounds interesting. And then, we send a proposal. Hey, you gave me a lot to think about. Really appreciate it, though. When would you like me to call you? Well, I'm not really sure. Give me a call in a couple weeks. Anyone ever get that? So, who's controlling the process when that's happening? They're controlling the process. So with that as a backdrop, I just threw this quote up here, which I love. And who knows the next line? You'll always get what you've always gotten. And I added one that Chris gave me today, if you're lucky, right? Because sometimes if I keep doing what I've always done in the past, I may not even get it, right? Sometimes we get lucky. And I think that was me. When I learned, I had a sales manager who was like a drill sergeant. And he would just pound his fist on the desk. You got to be out of the office by 9. You're not allowed until 4. You got to be knocking on doors all day long. This is a numbers game. You got to find those prospects. And then when you find them, you got to do a polished presentation and close hard. Honest to God, that's how I was taught. What do you think that does to you when you're facing this wall every day? Then I come back in. I didn't know which was worse, facing the rejection in the field or facing my boss when I came in. And he goes, so what did you sell today? Right? And I'm like, man, you should have been with me today to see what I experienced. Dogs chasing me and all kinds of stuff happening. So sometimes, and I really believe that I was successful even though I didn't have the skills I have today because I compensated for my lack of skills with, guess what? Hard work, right? I just worked my brains out. I had white hair. My kids thought I was born with white hair. I've had white hair since I was like 20-something years old. I think it's because I work so hard. And I said in the beginning, if you come out of here with 3 things, 1, learn how to sell more in less time with less pressure. Well, it took me a lot of time, so I worked a lot of hours, and I had a whole lot of pressure, which gave me the gray hair. So hopefully, I see a couple that don't have gray hair here. Maybe I'll be able to sell you, to save you. So what I want to get into, sales is like a dance, right? And how many people here have ever danced? Come on. Okay, we've danced. You don't want to admit it in public, I know. And if you dance like me, you definitely wouldn't want to admit in public. But so you're either leading or following, right? There's only one of 2 roles you have when you're dancing. What happens if you're both leading and you're dancing? What does that look like for any real dancers out there? Yeah, I mean, you'd just be bumping into each other and be like a struggle or a fight. So in the buyer-seller dance, someone's leading and someone's following. So what I venture to say, if you're not leading, then you're what? You're following. How many of us are following, right? So I want to kind of take a step back before we get into what should we do to what's really happening. What's happening between you and this potential prospect of yours? And you may want to write this down. What's the difference between a prospect and a suspect? Who wants to throw a guess at that? Suspects, and you may want to write these words down, suspects waste your time. They waste your time. Stop wasting time with suspects. Prospects are someone who has the needs, who can make a decision, who has budget, and is looking to do something. Suspects are everyone else. And too many people that I've met with, myself included, I've been guilty of almost anything that I talk about on the opposite side. I spend all kinds of time with suspects. Why did I spend time with suspects?
They didn't tell you they weren't the prospect.
They didn't tell me they weren't. And why didn't they tell me that?
You didn't.
Key thing for a smart guy. Because I didn't ask. And why didn't I ask?
You didn't know to.
Because you weren't a good listener.
Even both of those are totally accurate, but even a bigger reason. I didn't want to hear the answer. I would rather believe that someday they may buy than actually hearing that two-letter word, which was probably the first word we learned when we were infants, right? No, no, no. Just my house, I don't know. But so sometimes it was just that reluctance inside us to ask what I call the tough questions because of my fear of hearing that two-letter word that I didn't want to hear. How many people can relate to that? So we dance around this thing, but we don't ask the direct question because I don't want to look like this, right? And so how can I be assertive yet not get thrown into that other category over there of traditional salesperson? So that's what we're going to look at. So what's going on? Here's the first thing. Buyers have a system. We're all buyers. And when you see this, tell me if this doesn't resonate, right? Their first step of their system is to mislead, and we just talked about that, about interest. Like the furniture situation, you're going up, just looking. But you're really there to buy a red couch with the $1,200 in my pocket, but I'm not sharing that with you. Sometimes it's the other way though, right? Where they say, yeah, come on down. Yeah, we're interested. Yeah, why don't you shoot me a proposal? Who've done that, right? You get this inbound call, and what happens? They go, hey, I saw your ad, I'm really interested. And if we had a tail, it would be wagging. We're so happy, right? We'd be like, oh man, this is unbelievable because I have all these suspects that are wasting my time. I actually have someone on the other end of the phone that wants to talk to me. Holy cow. So I'm in real trouble when that happens. So they mislead one of two ways. Either they say, no, I'm not interested, but they really are, or they say they are. How many of those calls that you got, they never bought anything, right? They seemed like they were interested, and they said, why don't you send me some literature? And so I was a good, persistent guy. I would go, so let me make sure I have your address right. So I'm writing down their name and address. I got that all right. I packaging up all that stuff, putting the envelope, sending it out. And then I go home at night and I pray really hard that they call back and buy something. And that's the hope and pray, the spray and pray approach to sales that too many people do. I thought I was doing the right thing. I wasn't doing the right thing, you'll see. So that was me, Mr. Happy Guy, the stuff's coming in. And here's what the prospect looked like. They weren't as happy as I was always. You ever notice that? And so what would happen, because we were like this, we fell into this category, and there was an imaginary wall that the more we talk, right, and salespeople tend to talk more and listen less, what happens to that wall? That wall keeps growing and growing and getting bigger and thicker, and communication is breaking down. So we're hurting ourselves right off the bat. Number two, their next step is to gather information. And sometimes it's that phone call on the phone, right? And they say, well, geez, and you may have called them. And they say, geez, I don't know, we're really not that interested. And you keep selling them. And they go, I tell you what, why don't you send me some literature? We'll take a serious look at it. And so, now they've gotten their information. How many people have done that? Like many, many, many times. How many of those do we not sell? Many, many, many of them, right? How about this, the next step? So now they got the information. Sometimes it's just literature you sent. Sometimes you may have gone out and you've given them a detailed proposal, right? And you spend time doing the specs and figuring this whole thing out. Who does that? Fairly detailed proposals take a little bit of time and effort. And then your reward for that is they commit to nothing. Anyone ever have that happen? What does that sound like? What do you hear out there? What do they say after they have it?
We went in another direction.
Oh, even before that, though, what are they saying? So you gave them the proposal, and you may have said something like, so how does this look? And they say,
they'll say, we're thinking about it, we're going to let you know, we'll get back to you, it looks good.
yeah, it looks good. You gave me a lot to think about. You did a great job. When they start saying stuff like they told me when I was 22 years old, you did a great job. If you want, I'll send your boss back then there wasn't email, it was before email. We'll send a little message in a bottle or something. It'll float up to your office. So the fourth step is, and I don't know if this sounds familiar, they hide behind voicemail. right? So what does that sound like? So I've given them the proposal. They said, boy, Pam, this really looks good. You gave me a lot to think about. Don't call us, we'll call you. So then being a good, persistent salesperson, what do? I call them. And I go, geez, man, how you doing with that proposal? And how many use this line? I stole this from my manager like 20 million years ago. Just wanted to touch base. Don't you hate that line? So just want to touch base. But now you get voicemail. Back in the old days, at least you had gatekeepers. Now all the gatekeepers are gone. All we have is voicemail. And what other tool did purchasing agents develop in the technology world to hurt us? Caller ID, right? It was purchasing agents, I swear to God, that put that thing together, right? And they said, we got to find a way to figure out when salespeople call, because I want to block those calls. So now they say, oh my God, it's more security. Ooh, that's that guy that gave us a proposal. No one answer the phone. No one answer the phone, right? Then you go into voicemail. Sound kind of familiar? So now on the other side, the traditional sales approach may look like this. Tell me if it does. The first thing I want to do, someone may call in and I want to do some level of fact finding. Anyone here in the insurance business? They actually have a tool you use called the fact finder, right? Most insurance companies have that. In the high-tech world that I came out of, we had this sheet of like 1 million specification questions that I had to ask. I had to find out, what their current hardware environment was like, what kind of programming language did they use, how many devices did they have tied in, how many remote sites did they have, all these questions, trying to uncover, their needs and fact find. How many of us do something like that? Trying to find, hey, what's going on here, right? Number two, then after we get all these facts, we run back to the office because they go, yeah, you know what, I'd like to see a proposal. Why don't you give me a proposal? So again, the tail starts wagging. I run back to the office just like that picture of the sales guy, all excited. And now I feel good because I'm working on a proposal, right? Way better than picking up the phone and trying to find prospects. Let me spend time with this suspect and maybe they'll buy something, right? So we spend 2 hours working on the proposal, hop in the car, drive a half hour back, spend an hour with them giving it, and then they say something like, hey, Kevin, thanks so much. Really appreciate this stuff, looks really good. You gave me a lot to think about. Don't call us, we'll call you. And then being a good salesperson, you may have taken one of these classes or read the Red Book of Selling or something, and they say, do a trial close. And so again, our overzealousness to close the deal, we show them the stuff, we go, hey, so how many would you like? Or when would you like me to install this? And if I could show you a better way, would you buy today? All those great kind of closes. When I say those kind of things, what do I look like? This or this? I look like this. What do you think happens to the wall the more I look like this? Is that wall going up or going down? The wall's going up, so I'm setting myself up for failure. And then, being a good, persistent, hard-working salesperson that you are, we chase, right? So we have them on that list. How many people have those calls on their list that they haven't made today? But like, oh, I probably should call these people, right? And then you're like, oh, God, I've called them like 3 times in the last week. What am I going to say different this time? Hey, I just want to touch base. Hey, I just want to touch base. Hey, I just want to touch base. My wife goes, man, you touch a lot of bases. Holy cow. Because for a while I was working at a whole, how many people feel like this? I don't know if you can see that at the bottom of the screen, but kind of like the proverbial mouse on a treadmill just running and getting nowhere. But you feel good because I'm busy and I'm doing all this stuff, right? And my boss used to reward that, saying that, man, you got to do a lot of behavior. Hey, Chip, you're doing the right stuff. Keep throwing enough spaghetti on the wall, eventually something will stick. Anyone ever hear that one? So, and you see how these things link up. As they're misleading about interest, I'm digging into their needs. As they're gathering information, I'm just giving them whatever they want, proposals, presentations. When they're committing to nothing, I'm trial closing them. And then we're just in this cycle that isn't going anywhere. So what's the impact? Who looks like that some days at the end of the week? That person sitting on the desk, that was me. And how many people have this? The opportunities are slipping month after month, right? I used to have sales guys coast to coast, and I was responsible for the $100 million of revenue. So guess what the pipeline had to be to hit hundreds of million? I mean, gazillion, lots of deals. And at the end of the month, I'd have to do my monthly update to senior management, and we just shift like 80% of the deals from May to June, and from June to July, and July to August. But we felt good because we had a really deep pipeline. It's just not enough stuff was closing at the bottom end. How about wasting a lot of time chasing non-prospects? If I could eliminate the time I spent chasing suspects that are never going to buy, if nothing else, I'll have more time to go play ball or play golf or take a walk in the park, right? Why work so hard? And I'm going to show you how we can do that. Lots of unpaid consulting. Anyone ever hear that term? So man, I remember a landscaper that I had in the program, and he said, yeah, I'd go out to these people. They say, yeah, we're looking to do this whole thing, and he did. What do they call that kind of outdoor? It's beyond landscaping. Hardscape. He was a hardscaper. So, which means, he'd do the nice outdoor fireplaces and the patios and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, Chippy, I'd go out and I'd do all the measurements, check the stuff out. They'd send me home. I'd do like literally blueprints and pictures and before and after stuff. And then nothing would happen. And I said, what do you think is happening with your proposal? And what do you think was happening?
Show it to someone else.
One, sometimes they're showing it to someone else. What else? Doing it themselves, right? I've seen that with financial planners, right? The guy comes in, well, I'd have a balanced portfolio and I'd have some large cap, small cap, mid cap, international, domestic, and some other kinds of things. And someone's sitting there, I'm watching this E-Trade ad at night. I think I could do this myself. So I take the proposal, I set up an account on E-Trade, and go, whoa, look at this.